Now, on Wednesday, former special counsel Robert Mueller broke the long silence on his report about Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Now, what he did during that time is, for one, he took the time to reiterate what was already known in the report. He talked about that, and he also announced that he would be basically stepping down as special counsel, folding up shop, and basically going into retirement. Okay, now, what he did cover that was substantive to the report is, again, stuff that we already know. There is insufficient evidence of a criminal conspiracy involving Trump working with the Russians, and that there was a concerted effort by Donald Trump himself to try to obstruct that investigation. Now, he also said that his office was prohibited from charging the president under the Department of Justice guidelines and made clear that his investigation did not exonerate the president. In fact, here's the quote: "If we had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so." I think that's fairly clear, right? Hey, man, look, if he was innocent, I would have told you he was innocent. That means he did something. That something would be obstruction of justice. He tried to stop us in every single way. Now, that, of course, led the president to start off his day with a very angry tweet. He said, quote, "The greatest presidential harassment in history after spending $40 million. Wait, okay, so that number continues to go up. I think first it was 25 million, then it's 30 million. Now it's up to 40 million because he just keeps adding things into it. But he continues, spending $40 million over 2 dark years with unlimited access, people, resources, and cooperation. Now, okay, we got to address that. Not at all true. The investigation, as I've mentioned many times on the show, was actually incredibly narrow in scope, right? It was narrow to just looking at criminal conspiracy with Russia during the 2016 election, which they could not find sufficient evidence of, right? Not only that, the president himself had refused to speak to Mueller in person because his lawyers had feared that it would be a perjury trap. Now, why would they consider him talking to Mueller and testifying to Mueller, one-on-one as perjury trap? It's because they know Donald Trump can't help but lie. Even about stupid things he lies about. So, of course, he's just going to lie about something completely nonsensical during that interview and then perjure himself. But he continues, quote, "Highly conflicted Robert Mueller would have brought charges if he had anything, but there were no charges to bring." Again, that's not true at all. As he mentioned, I guess if you had watched or even read the report, right, Mueller was unable to bring, or he did not believe that he was able to bring charges under Department of Justice guidelines set by the people Trump had appointed to the Department of Justice, right? Those guidelines, he believed, did not allow him to indict a sitting president or to even label him as a criminal because he believed that it would be unfair to the president because he could not actually do an indictment. Basically, he ended up passing the buck, punting to Congress, and Congress, of course, would be starting, if it actually functioned right, would be starting an impeachment inquiry. But Trump wasn't done. He then later told reporters, quote, "Someday you ought to read a thing called Article 2. Read Article 2, which gives the president powers you wouldn't believe. But I don't even have to rely on Article 2. There was no crime. There was no obstruction. No obstruction. There was no collusion. There was no nothing." Okay. Hilarious, right? Read Article 2. Read Article... Dude, you didn't even read your briefings. There's no way you've read Article 2. You can't name one presidential power under Article 2. You just say, it has powers you couldn't believe. That has nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with this at all. What does presidential powers have to do with Mueller not being able to charge the president under DOJ guidelines or choosing not to indict the president under DOJ guidelines? Doesn't have anything to do with it. In fact, there is a body that does have oversight of the president that is not affected by Article 2. That is Congress. So again, that's another nod to, hey, Congress, maybe you should do your freaking jobs. Now, interestingly enough, he goes on, after he was asked if Mueller had behaved honorably, he said this, quote, "I think he's totally conflicted." Now, that referred, of course, to Mueller's brief membership at a Trump golf club in Virginia, and, of course, the fact that Trump had repeatedly criticized his once close relationship with former FBI Director James Comey. Oh, you're friends with Comey, and you once were unfairly treated or feel like you were unfairly treated at my golf course. Utterly, completely conflicted. Now, look, what I've seen from Robert Mueller is that I believe that he can separate himself, those two things, from his actual work. I'm just saying. He seems like he's more of a kind of a professional, but, you know, look, we know he's establishment as well. But he's going to do his job, right? And that's what he did. His job was to investigate whether or not there was a criminal conspiracy, or what they would call collusion, between Donald Trump and the Russian government. They did not find enough evidence of that. Ergo, he literally did his job, and now he's saying, Congress, do your job. Just do your job. But that is, again, why we should be talking about impeachment. Now, Trump was asked about that, too. Here's what he said. Quote, "To me, it's a dirty word. The word impeach, it's a dirty, filthy, disgusting word." What a baby. What a sad, pathetic little baby. It's a disgusting word. Impeachment. Really? I don't know. There's got to be a... Well, there wasn't Twitter back then. If there was Twitter back during the Bill Clinton impeachment process, guaranteed, Donald Trump would have been like, impeachment is great. I don't know. But man, dude, really. The thing about this is, if the Democrats do not bring impeachment charges, or don't begin an impeachment inquiry against Trump, and I'm afraid that they won't, then this is going to set a very bad precedent. Now, again, what he did is he obstructed justice at least 10 times, which was documented in the special counsel's report. He's not exonerated completely, so he has done things wrong, and for those wrongdoings, he does need to be held accountable, as well as the Republicans who would likely support him if we actually ended up doing an impeachment. I know a lot of people are like, well, we don't need to bring impeachment. Why? Because it's not going to do anything. It's not going to pass the Republican Senate. Okay, hold those Republicans accountable then. And besides, during an impeachment inquiry, there's going to be a lot of stuff that ends up coming out. That's going to change public opinion, and that's going to show possibly the depth and breadth of Donald Trump's criminal past and his criminality overall. That's not a bad thing to happen. Bring it all out into the light, expose him for what he is, and that is a criminal and a fraud. The only thing that stands in the way of that, of course, is weak Democratic leadership. If Nancy Pelosi continues to play politics, then we should remember that the next time she's up for re-election, if there will be another election, who knows, right? Who knows how far Donald Trump will want to take this? Because it's very clear, as usual, Pelosi and the Democrats refuse to lead. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.